Podcasting from Singapore and broadcasting all around the world. You're listening to the Ignite EdTech Podcast with Craig Kemp, created by an educator for educators and streaming to the world. Now, over to your host, Craig Kemp.
Hello and welcome to episode 127 of the Ignite EdTech Podcast. I'm your host, Craig Kemp, and I'm honoured to have you join us for the last episode of this season. I continue to work with the incredibly talented Mark Quinn to improve the final audio quality of this podcast. He has his own podcast production studio that provides editing and mastering services to content creators. To connect with Mark, please see the details in the podcast notes below. A tool that has positively impacted the authentic and purposeful use of technology into classrooms and meeting rooms that I have worked in is Vidigami. Vidigami is an incredibly innovative and powerful solution for schools globally, and when I saw this in action, it blew me away. So much so that I had to chat to the founder, Mandy Chan, and her interview is on today's show. Vidigami is a media management system designed exclusively for schools. With Vidigami, members of the school community, staff, parents, students, can upload, download, and share photos in a members-only private and secure space. Vidigami was inspired by Mandy's desire as a parent to have greater visibility into her children's school experience. Vidigami was designed from the ground up to be a private and secure platform for collaborative media management. Your school determines who has access and how much access every user may be granted. They securely integrate with your student management system to ensure only members of your community are invited. Content uploaded to Vidigami is replicated at upload, encrypted, and stored in the cloud so it's accessible to you at any time. I was inspired by the belief that photos have become the shorthand for how we interact and communicate, transcending language and culture, providing authenticity to stories and engagement with community. I also love their belief that students need to be recognized, their individuality cherished, and special moments celebrated. Since reaching out to Mandy, I've learned about schools all over the world using Vidigami to transform and innovate media management, and I highly recommend you connect for a chat and to learn more for yourself and for your school. It is simply amazing, and you'll learn more in the interview later in this episode. I highly recommend that you take a look at the link in the description below, vidigami.com. Last week, I talked about my suggestions to refresh and recharge over your summer or winter break that's coming up. If you're interested in learning more, go back and listen to last week's episode. This week, I wanted to talk very briefly about my plans over the break and for the remainder of 2023. As I shared last week, I've been in Brazil working with an incredible school on a 3-year digital transformation project in Sao Paulo. It's a real privilege to be chosen to be their lead consultant on this project. My time in Brazil has been incredible. I'm still here now, and I'm thrilled to continue this relationship over the coming years as we embark on a journey to be the leader in this field in South America. If this interests you and your school, please reach out to me so I can share more about the work that I do and what it takes for these digital transformation projects. I travel back to Singapore next week, and then I'm off to England, Scotland, and Ireland for a break with my family. If you're in any of these locations, I'd love to catch up with you throughout June and July. During this time, I'll be continuing to work with several of my retained clients who are both EdTech companies, schools, and individuals whom I mentor. I'll also, of course, continue to be working with eduspark as we've really found a great niche supporting schools globally in their professional development strategy, engagement, and community. eduspark continues to thrive, and we now support almost 6,000 educators globally, with committed relationships with dozens of schools from Australia to Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, Korea, UAE, Germany, Kenya, and beyond. Every school leader we chat with sees the value, and our value proposition continues to grow. The offering is better than ever before, and we've refined our implementation strategy and support mechanisms to do more for less. Schools are now even building their own orientation programs at no additional cost, with our team inside of eduspark to help, to add even more value to our exceptional product. I'm thrilled to see this taking shape and thriving and supporting so many different schools globally to add value to their professional learning program. The rest of 2023 will see my continued work as a consultant supporting EdTech companies, schools, and ministries globally while continuing to grow and thrive with EduSpark. I love the work I do, and I'll be doing a lot of traveling for EduSpark, taking us to many events across Asia and the Middle East, particularly during conference season in October and November. So wherever you are in the world, please let me know, and I'd love to see you on my travels. I'm so thrilled to look back and reflect on where both my consultancy and EduSpark has grown to and where we're going to in the future. Just 18 months into EduSpark and we're thriving. The next 18 months are going to show exponential growth with our incredible school partners. If your school wants to join this revolution, reach out. I'd love to have a 30-minute introductory demo with you and showcase some of the amazing work happening in our schools globally. It is truly innovative, and for a fraction of the cost of traditional CPD, we are your chosen solution. Thank you for your continued support in all that I do, and thank you for everything you do for listening to this podcast. To learn more, please don't hesitate to connect with me on your social channel of choice. I'd love to hear from you. Every week, I bring you a short interview with some of my edu heroes, an engaging learning experience with someone who makes a difference in education every day, with a particular focus or angle towards educational technology. As I highlighted earlier in the episode, this week I had the pleasure of chatting with Mandy Chan. Let's have a listen to the chat. Today I have the honor of speaking with Mandy Chan. Mandy is based in Canada and is an EdTech expert. She's the founder and president of innovative tech company Vidigami. Vidigami provides schools the best place for storing and sharing the photos and videos that are taken throughout the school year by staff, teachers, students, and even families. Designed exclusively for schools, Vidigami offers a private and secure community photo management platform that enables schools to manage data privacy and content consent while engaging its community to share in the school experience online. Through photos, Vidigami personalizes the school experience that's unique to every student and family. I've seen Vidigami in action and love the innovative approach that they take, and Mandy has taken on this journey. In the world of machine learning and AI, I think it appropriate to share Vidigami to the world. Mandy, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. Are you ready to talk about education and technology integration?
Yes, thank you so much, Craig. I'm so excited to be here today.
Awesome. Let's go. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your current role and what inspires you to do what you do?
So I'm the founder and president of Vidigami. And what inspires me is really the opportunity to be able to help capture the stories that showcase what's unique about every student. So it doesn't matter if they're an artist, an athlete, or a scientist. We just need to help stories get told and help them be seen. And this helps them do just that.
I love it, Mandy, and I love your story of where you've come from and what you've done. Tell us a little bit more about how Vidigami came about.
My background has always been in digital media. My first startup was back in the late 90s where we developed, audio compression technology that launched Apple QuickTime streaming. And over the years, what's clear to me is there's so much complexity around content, digital rights management, and whether or not you have the right to be able to use media or to share media. So as a technologist, I was very interested in making sense of community-generated content and how intelligent content can help tell our stories in a meaningful way. Because more and more, every smartphone holder is effectively a content producer. We know that. Trillions of photos are getting uploaded and taken every year. And so with this in mind, what I really wanted to do was, okay, how do we make sense of all this content? How do we tell stories with the photos that everybody's taken, every day? And starting with schools made sense because as a parent, I could see how these photos were going to communicate that student experience, right? And engage me in part of that school experience. And in many ways, it kind of addressed my personal FOMO, right? As a social media, Facebook generation parent. There's so many exciting things that happen, at a school. so much of the learning actually happens not only in the classroom, but outside of the classroom. The why, I introduced Vidigami to schools is because I believe that there's no better way to capture the school experience and the student experience than through the photos and videos that get taken, every day by virtually everybody, within the community. We know, especially, post-COVID, that the school experience is equally important outside of the classroom as well as inside the classroom. Kids really missed, the Makers Club and the basketball games and, everything that they do with their friends outside of the classroom. And while, over the years, there's some incredible tools that have been introduced that do a great job of capturing learning inside the classroom, we forget that student experience outside of the classroom is equally important. What Vidigami helps us do is provide a really complete way of capturing that entire student journey from the first day a kid starts school, in kindergarten to graduation.
Yeah, thanks, Mandy. I really appreciate that. And Mandy, I have conversations with school leaders and teachers every single day. And one of the things that constantly comes up are their struggles around data privacy, content and consent management. Our schools are struggling to find ways to do this authentically and purposefully and to save them time. I'd love for you to share a little bit about what you're doing to help schools in sharing their content while thinking about the data privacy laws in their school or in the country that they live in.
Yes, Craig, I think this is at the foundation of the problems that we're trying to, solve for schools. We know that, photos or videos are getting taken and created, all the time. And it's the rate in which content is getting created is just going faster and faster. And the challenge we have is with GDPR and growing data privacy regulations around the world, there just needs to be a robust way for schools to be able to capture, the consent over who has a right to be able to access content and to share content and how content can be used. And I think that when a school is able to put the rules of engagement in place and to capture the consent from the families and the students, now you unlock the power of what all this content can do for you from a communications point of view, from a community engagement point of view, and really even in helping build this portfolio that becomes really meaningful for students, right, as they use this content when they apply for scholarships and programs.
When we look at your success in the last years and the developments in the tech landscapes, how important are these advancements in technology to you? Tell us a little bit about the technology that makes Vidigami different to the rest and what problems you're solving.
I think the simplest way to answer that is we've successfully been able to address the complexity of managing content, managing data privacy, content ownership, and publicity rights in a way that allows for community-generated content to be shared via an intelligent content management system, right? And when I say intelligent content management system, I'm really referring to the use of AI, facial recognition, the automation related to how we can classify that content, how we can organize all that data in a way that allows us to be able to systematically, search and find and deliver meaningful content to every individual.
I love it, Mandy. I've seen this in person as well, and with many schools that you work with. And I really love how this works and what it looks like. What are some of the most exciting case studies in schools that you're working with currently in the use of Vidigami?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. The first one is that when we use the facial recognition, as photos are uploaded into Vidigami, we automatically tag it by school year, by grade, by event. And then the facial recognition gives us the opportunity to be able to go and tag every student. So every photo tagged by the student's name gets added into their personal portfolio of student life. And every piece of content that gets tagged by creator goes into their personal collection of student work. So what we're doing is systematically building a living media portfolio for every student. So I think that's really exciting. And the families would be able to log in and they get a personalized view of, their child's year over year. So, The second thing that we feel is really compelling is for some of our schools, they've really opened it up to their students and they've integrated it into a journalism program so that the students themselves are actually responsible for capturing, all the different school events that happen. And what Vidigami ends up doing is providing them really a platform for delivering that content to their audience without having to go to social media.
Yeah, that's a very cool explanation of just one of the case studies that I think you're working on at the moment. There are so many things happening in the schools that you work with all over the world. And I encourage anyone listening to reach out and connect with Mandy and the team to learn a little bit more, because in the world that we're in today, we need to be much more thoughtful and better at managing photos and managing the content around us and finding tools that simplify that process in a safe and respectful manner as well. Mandy, let's jump into some quick fire questions. The first thing that comes to your head, and maybe a brief why. What's your favorite EdTech book or resource?
I love the book, What Schools Could Be by Ted Dintersmith.
What's your go-to EdTech tool that the listeners need to try?
Classhook. I love Classhook. I love how they help curate pop culture content to help students learn concepts. I love the fact they explain alliteration by showing you a little clip from, Shrek when Donkey goes on about alliteration.
I love it. I haven't seen Classhook, so I need to dive into it, and we'll put the link to all of these in the podcast notes as well. Mandy, what's one daily habit or practice that helps you enjoy, progress, and succeed in your career?
Lead by example. Kind of applies to parenting too.
Nice. Mandy, I love everything you've shared today, and I know the listeners are going to want to follow and connect with you. What's the best way for them to do that?
Please reach out to me on LinkedIn, just Mandy Chan at Vidigami, or email me at mandy@vidigami.com. I would love to hear from, anyone who'd like to talk more about what we're doing here at Vidigami.
Awesome. We'll make sure all the links to everything you've talked about today are in the podcast notes below as well. Mandy, thank you so much for your time today. That's it for the season of the Ignite EdTech Podcast. Thank you for your continued support, and I look forward to bringing you more when we return in August. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss next season, and don't hesitate to connect with me on our social channels. Stay safe and keep learning. If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow us and share the podcast with your PLN and colleagues. Please remember to spend a few minutes to rate this podcast too on your podcast channel of choice so we can reach even more educators and EdTech enthusiasts globally. Remember, you have the chance to win as well. Check out the links in the description for more, and I'll see you again next week.
If you liked today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And be in the drawing to win prizes every week. If you know others that would enjoy the show, please hit that share button and brighten their day. Join us again next week for your weekly EdTech hit with @Mr. Kemp NZ. We'll see you again soon.